Hey there, it's Jen for Altenew. Today I wanted to show you a fun way to make a little gratitude list, and I thought it would be cool to use the Weekend Doodles stamp set, and I want to use these wreaths in the set to house my little thankful thoughts, as well as one of them will contain a photo. So that's where I'm starting today, and I'm going to use those wreaths, stamp them in permanent black ink so I can watercolor them. I'm not using watercolor paper because I want it to be crisp white, but I'm not going to add too much water when I color these. So that's where I'm starting, and I will talk you through the process.
Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is stamp out all of these wreaths, and I sped this up quite a lot because I'm going to stamp a whole bunch of them, and I'm just doing both wreaths that come in this set and stamping multiples. And I really wish I would have pulled out my stamp press because I had to stamp more than I needed to because I didn't stamp them perfectly, and it would have been nice to have my stamp press to just go over the stamp again. So I definitely recommend that, but it worked out fine this way too. So I'm stamping out all of the wreaths, and then the next thing I'm going to do is figure out how many I need to make my layout. And so one way that I thought of doing this is to have a photo in the middle and then wreaths encircling it, but I decided to make a grid style layout instead. And you saw me kind of playing around with the idea of using some pattern paper to back my white cardstock there, but for the moment I'm going to pull that away. What I'm doing now is I'm grabbing my Altenew watercolor set. You can see it's well used and well loved. I don't clean it out, and I love using these watercolors. They're great colors. I'm pulling out my Altenew little craft mat here because I'm going to watercolor these wreaths. And I decided, at first I thought about doing like fall colors, but then I decided I wanted it to just be colorful and fun. This is a layout about gratitude and the things that I'm thankful for, and that doesn't necessarily need, just because I do it every year around Thanksgiving, that doesn't mean that it needs to have those colors. So I'm doing a rainbow because I love doing rainbows. So I'm starting on my watercolor palette and just going through all of the color families. So this first one is kind of like a pinky purple, and I'm trying to make it so that all the leaves aren't exactly the same. I don't want the leaves to look flat, so I'm making some of them lighter and some of them darker and some of them different shades. And this one here is more of a pinky pink color, less purpley than the previous one. And I'm going to go through and do all of the colors of the rainbow. And I'm not going to make you watch me do that because this is very simple. I'm just grabbing the color with my water brush and putting it on the leaves. And I'm going to do, after the pink, I'm doing like a reddish orange color, and then I'm going to do orange, yellow, green, kind of a teal, a blue, and a darker purple. And you'll see them all done here in just a second because I'm going to skip ahead. This was a really fun process. So here they all are, and I'm going to bring back my cardstock and lay them out and see how they look. And I love a good rainbow, so this made me happy, and this is what I'm going to go with. So I have my little photo, and I just picked a random selfie because it doesn't matter what the photo is, it's more about what I'm thankful for. So the photo is just representing who's thankful, and that's me. So here I bring back those cardstocks to see if they'll work for the background, but I don't like them. I thought about doing black, and in the end I'm going to stick with this lined paper for a minute, but I'm just going to bring back a white piece of cardstock. I really like the white on white look. So for my title, I was thinking that I would cut out some words using the Tall Alpha die set, but I instead decided to use some stickers from the, why can't I remember the name of the collection right now? At this point, I'm looking through the 6x6 papers that I have to see what I could die cut the letters from, because I wanted to maybe do it out of a patterned paper, but nothing was looking right to me, and I couldn't decide what color to do it because there's so many colors on there. How do you choose just one? So I decided to go with black, and then realized that I have these letter stickers from the Live Your Dream collection, the scrapbook collection, and so I'm going to go with those. And I'm just going to spell out thankful for, and I really wished I would have had enough lowercase alphas to do this, but I didn't, so I just used the uppercase, and I think it looks totally fine. I'm going to do a dot, 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 and then each one of my journaling pieces will start with a dot, 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 so it's continuing the thought. So next thing I'm going to do is figure out how I want this all to go down. I went to my typewriter and typed up the things I was grateful for, making sure to keep them fairly small so they would fit in the wreaths. I didn't measure it out or anything. I just kind of winged it, and most of them ended up working. I did have to go and retype a couple of them, but it ends up going pretty well. So if you wanted to, you could use the centers that cut out of the wreaths and trace it on your paper so you knew exactly how much room you have, but I'm too lazy for that. So I just winged it and hoped it worked. I have a whole bunch of these just plain project life cards in my stash that I'm trying to use up, and they're perfect for typing on, so that's what I use them for most often. So I'm just putting each one behind a different color. I went and typed up the ones that didn't work out and put them behind as well. And then here's where I decided to go with the white on white background. And I decided that I wanted to pop up every single one of those wreaths. So I'm grabbing some fun foam and just putting it behind each wreath so that I can pop it up. And it's really, really simple to do. And I really like the dimension. I think it just adds something. And later, having this dimension comes in handy, and you'll see what I mean in a little bit. So now I'm going to arrange everything, and I know that I want to have somewhere for my title. So I'm thinking leaving a space between the top row and the second row is a good place for me to put a title, and I decided that I liked that. So now what I'm going to do is back all of these. What I did was back all of them. I adhered all of the wreaths down basically. And now, because these are popped up, this makes this next step super simple. I hadn't thought of doing this at first, but I really love the way that this looks and the way that this adds to the layout. But I'm just taking a little bit of the watercolor and kind of creating a little halo around each one of the wreaths. And I really love the way that it kind of draws them into the background. It makes them feel like they belong there, and it just gives another bit of color, and it's just really, I don't know, a pretty look, a look that I love. And my paper was not meant for watercolor, so I'm trying to not use too much water because I don't want the paper to pill, and just creating a little halo of color around each and every one of those wreaths. And this just makes my heart happy. And it was a fun process, and it's just really simple. I'm not trying to create a perfect circle or anything. I'm just trying to get a little bit of color back there and then kind of fade it out on the edges. Because I wasn't using watercolor paper, the pigment soaked into the paper pretty quickly. So in some areas it was hard to make the color fade out, so you do have to use a little bit more water, but it ended up being okay. If I would have known that I was going to do this, I could have cut the wreaths and done my background all on watercolor paper so that it would have been a lot easier, but this worked out fine, and I think it turns out really pretty actually. So just getting the pink, and then the last one that I'll do is the red, and then I will be ready to stick down my title. At this point, while I'm painting these, I'm thinking about what else I'm going to do to this layout. Do I want to keep it super, super simple and just leave the watercoloring? Do I want to do more than this? My tendency is always to do more. I am a more is more kind of girl. Not always, but often. And so I'm thinking about ways that I can embellish this a little bit more. My title wasn't completely centered, so I'm going to move it over just a little bit. But I like the way that it looks there, and the contrast of the black is good. And I like that the black kind of ties in the color of the stamping, so that worked out nicely. So here's what I decided to do. I pulled out my inks, and I find an ink color that matches with each and every watercolor wreath that I've done. And I am going to stamp 3 little hearts around each wreath there are 2 little hearts from the new Modern Fox stamp set, and I love digging through my different stamps and using things like stars and hearts from different sets all the time. And so I was really glad that this Modern Fox stamp set had these little hearts in it. So I'm just, again, stamping 3 around each wreath. And in some places I'm stamping the 3 all over the place, and in some places I'm stamping 2 of the hearts closer together, just kind of stamping them wherever I feel. The orange was the only color, well, there were 2 colors that I felt like I didn't quite have a match for. The orange was a little bit orangey for me. I wished it was a little bit lighter. And then the green, I did not have this color of green, so I'm going to have to remember that and get an Altenew ink that matches that for myself. But what I did, sometimes if you don't have the right color, what you can do is layer up colors. And so what I do here, this isn't a perfect match either, but I'm going to stamp Sweet Leaf with Citrus Burst over the top of it. I'm going to stamp the Citrus Burst a couple of times, and it makes the green more yellowy and less blue, and that helps a lot. And so that makes my green match a little bit more. Even though it's not perfect, it's better than what I began with. And so, yeah, if you're ever missing a color, try stamping a couple of colors on top of each other. Works really well. So now I'm doing my blue, and then I'll do my purple. I love having these mini ink cubes because they're inexpensive and you can have a lot of colors in a small amount of space. And I just have all of mine in 4 little containers, and it's perfect. So now I decide to pull out my enamel dots, and I'm going to put a couple of each color on each wreath. And I'm just doing tone on tone. This is more for texture because it's not something that you see immediately. But what I like to do when I'm creating layouts is there's one thing you see immediately, and for this layout, that's the wreaths and the title. And then you kind of notice, oh, that there's this fun little halo around the wreaths, and then you notice there's some hearts, and then you notice that there's these enamel dots, and then you notice a few more details each time you look, like your eye goes around the layout. And so these enamel dots just help to keep your eye going, and I just like the tone on tone look. So the last thing I'm going to do, there is this teeny tiny stamp set, and it has the word thanks in it really small. And so I decided to take the same ink colors that I used for the hearts, and I'm just going to stamp, I think it says thank you, not thanks. I'm going to stamp thank you around with each wreath as well. And that just kind of fills it out a little bit and helps it feel, I don't know, more finished to me for some reason. And this is still a very simple layout. It's pretty clean, even though I've used some mixed media and done some kind of random stamping. It's all very contained and orderly because it's in a grid and it's in like color order. And so that helps to contain the wildness, if you will. So if, wild's not really your thing, this is a good way to do it and still maintain that order if that's something that you love. So I'm just got a few more colors here. The green, I was kind of like worried about what to do with the green, and I thought maybe it'll look fine if I just stamp the Sweet Leaf and you won't be able to notice too much because it's just words. And it did look okay, but I still stamped over the top of it with yellow, and it doesn't line up exactly, but I don't care, and it looks okay. It's more about the texture of the words than actually seeing the words, and because the words appear so many times, you know what it says. So because I did my white on white, I'm kind of distressing the edges, and that is going to complete this layout for me. So I have, oh, I'm going to stamp the date as well, but that's it. And here's some close-up photos coming up. So here's the full layout, and then you'll see some close-up photos where you can see the enamel dots a little bit more and how the texture of the stamping worked out. Really happy with the way that it looks. So after this, I had some leftover wreaths, and I decided to make some little place cards, and they were super simple, so I wanted to share with you how I did them. So what I did was I took the new Altenew gradient cardstocks, and they were the perfect size to fold in half to make a little place card, like for your Thanksgiving table or something. And so I just took the couple of wreaths that I had left over, and I'm painting the leaves on these ones green, and I am going to place the name of the person inside the wreath. And I thought this would be a fun and simple thing to do. And I thought I would just show you because Thanksgiving is around the corner. And if you need a last minute place card idea, I think this is a fun way to do it. You could use any cardstock you have on hand. Personally, I was happy that I had these gradient cardstocks because it happened to be just the right size already. And that was nice. I'm sprinkling a little bit of gold metallic watercolor on, and then I'll place my wreath on top. I tried to do some larger dots and they did not turn out cute, but my wreath will cover them up, so it ends up being fine. But now I'm going to use the inner portion of the wreath that die cuts out, and I'm just going to write. First, I started with my own name. I'm going to write my name on it just with a calligraphy pen that I have. And I made 2 more of these, one for my husband and one for my daughter in different colors, doing the exact same technique. And they seriously came together in minutes. So it was a fun project and super simple to do. So I hope that you'll try that out if you're looking for an idea. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed. Head over to the Altenew blog for more information, and be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss all of the wonderful inspiration that can be found here at Altenew. Thanks so much for watching, and hope to see you again soon.